So we're going to do a really simple dish today, making fresh pasta. So we're going to assume nobody has a pasta machine at home, and we're going to show you how to make pasta by hand. But first, we need to actually make the pasta. So we have our 1 cup of all-purpose flour off to the side. In a small bowl, I want you to crack your egg, and then into that, I want you to add your 1 tablespoon of water and 1 tablespoon, if you have olive oil, use that, 1 good tablespoon of olive oil. And then I'm going to take a fork, break the yolk, and I just want to mix these ingredients together just to kind of make sure that it's pre-blended when we go to make our pasta. Okay, so that's good enough. On the counter, right where it's clean, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And then what I want you to do right in the middle is you're going to create what's called a well. So maybe like a volcano, but make the hole large enough that's going to hold all that liquid, but keep your sides up so that it doesn't go and spill out over the edges. So I'm going to kind of spread it out a little bit, but keeping it high. And I'm going to go ahead and slowly add it just to test my walls, see where I'm going. Awesome. All right, and then using that same dinner fork, you're going to blend. You're going to start to blend, kind of mixing the flour, bringing it in from the sides, and I'm really pressing down as well. So it's kind of an up and a down pushing motion. Make sure I'm pushing any lumps out of the flour, kind of scrambling the egg in with the flour at the same time. Kind of mix a little bit of the flour in. Now if you find at the very end you need to, you can add some more liquid. But remember, sometimes not adding, the liquid, you can get it too wet, and then you're going to go back to adding dry, and then it gets to be too much of that back and forth motion. Pasta needs to sit. The flour needs to absorb that liquid. It doesn't all happen right in the very beginning. So now I can see all my liquid starting to absorb. I'm going to go in. I can start to knead it, kind of really push the flour in, force it to absorb that. I have a little bit more, I have some oil, and I have a little bit more water here. And again, it's just depending, I maybe could have sifted that flour ahead of time just to make sure. Okay, now I'm just going to go in and start to do that kneading motion, bringing it all together. I can see it's sticky, so if it's sticky, I don't want to add any more water to it. I really want it to go ahead and start to form on its own, pushing it in, creating that ball. Really want to make sure we form those glutens. Okay, maybe add just a tiny bit, not a lot. Start to knead it. And I'm going to continue to knead it until it's really nice and smooth. And then it's going to need to sit. It's going to need to sit in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. Okay, 20 to 30 minutes. It needs to chill. You'll find that the rest of that liquid will be absorbed. So this is probably enough to do 2 servings of the ravioli. Makes about 12 depending on the size of the ravioli. And then it would make probably 2 servings of pasta. So if you wanted to serve for 4, I would say you're going to want to double your recipe or make 2 batches. Okay, so it is not perfectly smooth, but that's okay. We've got it together. And this needs to sit, like I said, it needs to allow that flour to continue to hydrate and absorb that liquid. Wrap this really tight with some plastic wrap. Let's put it in the refrigerator for about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to clean up the workstation and I'll show you how to start rolling. So the pasta was refrigerated for 30 minutes and we're going to go on to the process now of trying to roll. Now remember, we rested the pasta so that, a couple of things, that we made sure that the flour was all hydrated, and also we let those glutens relax. And we might have to do that a couple more times depending on how easy our dough rolls out. So I also have a couple more pieces of equipment that I went and got ready, cleaned my table. So you need some sort of a straight edge. Okay, this is really just half a yardstick. If you have a ruler, wash it. It needs to be sanitized, especially if you're pulling out of your desk drawer, or wrap a piece of plastic wrap around it really tight. But you need some sort of a straight edge. You need your rolling pin or dowel, and we're going to use a pizza cutter. You can go ahead and use your knife. I like the pizza cutter. It runs along the straight edge really nicely. And I went ahead and grabbed some more flour. So unwrap, and I'm going to very lightly, again, dust the area. Move everything off to the side, because right now we're just basically going to roll. And what we're trying to do is get the dough as thin as we possibly can, because normally in a pasta machine or an electric pasta machine, you would be able to get the dough really nice and thin. But again, we're trying to do it by hand. So if you're rolling it and you see it springing back, you're going to have to stop. Okay, try to roll it a couple directions. It's going to take some time. You'll find maybe it starts rolling one way much easier than the other. Again, if it's not moving at all, sometimes it needs, again, that flour to act like little ball bearings to slide against the dough. All right, that's it. Take my piece of plastic. I'm going to start allowing those glutens to relax, and I'll try it again in another 5 minutes. So it rested another 5. I've started rolling again. You can see it's starting to get longer. And again, it's just going to need to rest and roll it out. Lightly flour again. We'll see how we're doing. We're starting to get about the thickness of, a little thicker than pie dough right now. So again, we want to go much thinner, one direction, middle out, middle up. Dust your area, lightly dust your flour, and just keep going. So I wanted to show you about every 2 minutes I'm coming up and I'm rolling it. I'm also go ahead and I left the plastic wrap. I had to get another sheet because it was starting to get long enough. I just leaving the plastic wrap over the top so it doesn't dry, starting in the middle, rolling down. And again, if you see it's not moving or not stretching, stop, pull the plastic wrap off, grab the dough, and again, lightly sprinkle up underneath, rub it around. I'm getting there. It's a little thicker than fettuccine right now, but it's getting there. So plastic wrap back on, and then look at that, it just starts to roll. I'm just going to keep getting nice and long till I'm at the thickness really I want. That's what I'm more concerned about. I'm not going any wider. I could start to get a little bit wider at this point. These are about the length I would want. So I could try to go a little thinner going now left to right. But again, you want to try to keep it in that nice rectangle because the length of the noodles is what we're looking for. doesn't move, check your flour, let it rest, move on to something else, come right back. So I continue to roll. I think I'm at the thin thickness, or nice and thin, that I'm looking for. And it's a little over 12 inches in length. I really didn't want to go any longer. I can always cut it in half, but my dough seems to be rolling much easier lengthwise than, well, there it goes. Okay, so I have my straight edge. I'll also have a plate. You could hang the pasta over some dowel and let it dry out for a little bit. I'm going to take it, and it can be refrigerated for a little bit, and then go ahead if you wanted to cook it right up, but I am actually not going to cook it right away. So I'm going to start out, and I'm going to start by cutting all these little tiny pieces. And again, keep this nice, put it back maybe in your plastic wrap. Those little pieces can be re-rolled and used for dough again. So I'm going to cut the top and just lightly trim the bottom, not much. Okay, then it depends on the width of your noodles. You could do nice thick noodles if you were gonna do like a really chunky meat sauce with lots of tomato called a pappardelle. It's a nice, let's say, probably about a ½ inch thick noodle. I'm gonna go really thin only because we are on the little bit of the thicker side. I'm gonna spin you around here so you can see if that works. We are a little bit on the thicker side, so I'd rather go with a much, there we go, thinner noodle and allow them to plump up. So I'm going to go really thin, put my straight edge, and just cut. And I'm just going to leave the noodle there, and I'm going to cut the next one. And just continue to do this until you have your entire piece of noodle cut. So again, these are about a little over an eighth, between an eighth and a quarter inch thick. So again, maybe like a linguine, I'm gonna say. So that might lead to, depending on what you want to make. I'll show you. I'll stop right there. Kind of show you. Pick them up, shake them out a little bit. And there they are. So that is your fresh pasta. So I have, you can use a half sheet pan with some parchment as well. It's stuck. And I'm just going to lay them down here, kind of spread them out, and just continue on. Let's do a couple more. All right, so I completed finishing cutting all my pasta. I'm going to tell you it is still on the little bit of the thick side. It could even be used in a soup. So if you guys wanted to make a homemade chicken noodle, cooking fresh pasta is quicker than dried pasta. You still need a big pot of boiling water, salted water. So again, that 1 gallon to about a pound of pasta to a gallon of salt. This isn't quite going to be a pound of pasta. So get a nice pot out, season it, big rapid boils. When the pasta turns from the yellow color, from the egg, to white, it gonna typically will also float. That's how you know it's done. Take a piece out, test it, really. Check your center. If it's still doughy, let it go a little bit longer. It's gonna be a lot more delicate, so be careful when it comes to pouring it into your colander. Sometimes even a slotted spoon or a pair of tongs will help you take it out. And remember, put it right in the sauce. Let it even finish cooking a little bit in your sauce, whether you're going to do an Alfredo, the red sauce, or even that creamy pesto I have. Enjoy.